Okay, we're down to the 1 minute mark, so I'll give a brief introduction. I'll read the first question and call on the first candidate in the order that we drew them. Good evening. My name is Dave Deininger. I'm a retired judge and a member of the Greene County Bar Association. The Bar Association is pleased to present this forum for the candidates who are running to succeed Circuit Judge James Beer, who will be retiring this year. The questions for tonight were suggested by members of the Bar Association. The speaking order for the first question was chosen by drawing names. The first question that we have tonight will permit each of the candidates to introduce themselves to you. So my first question for each candidate is this: tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, education, legal experience, community involvement, whatever you want to share, and why you believe your experience qualifies you to become a circuit court judge in Greene County. You'll have 5 minutes on the first question, a little less on the later ones. And the first candidate by our drawing is Jane Bucher. Jane?
Thank you, Judge Deininger, and thank you to the Greene County Bar Association for hosting this forum. My name is Jane Bucher, and I'm running for Greene County Circuit Court Judge. As many of you know, Judge Beer has announced that he will not seek re-election, and therefore there will be an open seat in the Greene County Circuit Court. Judicial elections are nonpartisan. That means that candidates do not run as Republicans or Democrats, and the primary will be February 16th. Judges have an important job. They make decisions that impact families and individuals, and they make decisions that impact businesses. I'm running for judge because I want to put my courtroom experience to work on behalf of the people of Greene County. My pledge is to treat every person that walks through the courtroom doors with respect. I've seen the justice system from a variety of perspectives, and I am prepared to make the tough decisions that will keep our communities safe and strong, and to build on what's working in our Greene County courts to make them even stronger, more fair, and more effective. Currently, I am an assistant state public defender. That means that I am the lawyer for adults and children who couldn't otherwise afford one. I've handled a wide variety of cases, the same types of cases that this judge will hear, including termination of parental rights cases, mental health commitments, cases involving children in need of protection or services. I'm in the courtroom every day. I've handled more cases in local circuit courts than any other candidate in this race, and for that reason, I am prepared to hit the ground running on day one. Because of that experience, I am also aware that the decisions that we make in the courtroom have the potential to change people's lives for the better. I will never forget hearing from a drug court graduate who said that the drug court program had saved his life. And I will never forget getting a call from a teenage client who called to tell me that she had graduated high school even though she had been in truancy court just a few years prior. People often come to me on one of the worst days of their lives. And my goal is always that when they leave the criminal justice system, their lives will be changed for the better. And that is why I have worked so hard to improve our criminal justice system. One example is drug court, which I helped initiate here in Greene County. Estimates are that 85% of people in the Wisconsin state prison system have a substance abuse issue. 50% have mental illness. Many people in the criminal justice system struggle with both. Drug courts hold offenders accountable and give individuals access to treatment that can help them turn their lives around and restore them safely to their communities and families. And they save taxpayer dollars. Now, I've said a little bit about why I'm running for judge. Another question I'm also asked is, what made you want to be a judge? As a Peace Corps volunteer, I saw how the law could change people's lives for the better. I served for 2 years as a health education volunteer in rural Senegal, where I lived in a mud structure with no running water and no electricity. The members of the village very much wanted to bring running water to their village. And as we advocated for that, it quickly became clear that this wasn't just a health education problem, it was a legal problem. And that's when I knew that the law was for me. I studied for the law school entrance exam by the light of a flashlight in my mud structure, and I attended the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where my legal training included working in a prosecutor's office, serving as a judicial intern for the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and working directly with victims of crime. My first job out of law school was right here in Monroe at the Kittleson Law Firm. My life and my career have been guided by the values I learned growing up in southern Wisconsin with my parents: integrity, hard work, a passion for making the world a better place, and a commitment to public service. My father was a Navy veteran who worked as a school psychologist for the state of Wisconsin, and my mother was a CNA who went back to school to get her nursing degree, even though she had 4 kids at home, and she went on to work at the Southern Wisconsin Center in Union Grove. Now, in addition to being a public defender, I'm also the full-time mom of 2 boys, Quinn and Xavier, and they are 6 and 4. My husband, Rudy, is a cheesemaker from Switzerland, and he feels very much at home here in Greene County. All of my life experiences have taught me that if we work together, recognize good ideas no matter where they come from, and put our minds to it, we can achieve great things. I plan to run a positive campaign based on what I will bring as your next Greene County Circuit Court judge. I will decide cases without bias, and I will work collaboratively with others to improve how our courts operate. I will serve everybody that comes through the courtroom doors with respect and integrity, and I will work hard to make the tough decisions that will keep our communities safe and strong. I am honored to be endorsed by more than 250 judges, attorneys, and community leaders. Some of the names you may recognize, such as Judge Sarah O'Brien, who's been helping out with drug court here and there over the last year. Also, you may recognize some attorneys, such as Attorney Chuck Wellington and Attorney George Vernon. I hope that I can earn your confidence, your trust, and your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane. The next candidate on the first question, the introduction, is Dan Bardoff.
Thank you, Judge Deiner. And I do want to thank you for hosting it as well, and for the Greene County Bar Association for putting on this forum. I can say that for myself, but I'm sure for the other candidates that we have all spent hundreds of hours on this campaign over the last several months and spent thousands of dollars, and to have the turnout of people to turn into this and to see that this is a big decision. It's very heartwarming, and I'm very appreciative. So my name is Dan Bardoff. I'm 47 years old. I'm a lifelong resident of Greene County. I'm from Monroe. My parents worked for the school district of Monroe. My dad was a teacher. My mom worked for then the junior high. I graduated from high school in 1992, and then I went on to the University of Madison and obtained my business degree in 1996. During college, I wasn't ready, I don't believe, to enter the business, the real world of working. And I wanted to have a bigger impact than just working for a bank or somewhere for a corporation. And I found the law. And from there, from 1996, after I graduated, I went directly to law school, to the University of Cincinnati College of Law, spent 3 years there and obtained my law degree. While I really enjoyed my time in Cincinnati, I did miss Wisconsin and always knew that I was going to go back to Wisconsin. So I went back to Wisconsin in 1999. I had to take the bar exam. I passed the bar exam in the summer of 1999 and I obtained employment at the firm of Vagley and Ewald. Now jump forward 21 and a half years later, I'm still there, with the exception that the last 15 years, I've been now a partner of the firm. Our firm, and as well as myself, we have a wide variety of areas of law that we are practice. We are a general practice law firm. I do a lot of municipal work. For all my career, for 18 of the years, I've been assistant city attorney for the city of Monroe. And of course, the last 3.5 years, I've been the lead city attorney for the city of Monroe, where you can handle anything from contracts to procedure questions, to advising the council and committees, to prosecuting city traffic, such as OWIs, disorderly conducts, all those type of charges. I also do a lot of family law, guardian ad litem work, custody, placement, child support. I do termination of parental rights, adoptions, including step-parent adoptions. I do guardian ad litem work, guardianship, probate, business incorporation, adverse possession, small claims, collections. I just do a variety of things. And this is what the Greene County Circuit Court judge does. In different counties like Dane and Rock County, they may just have a division, but in Greene County, they handle a little bit of everything. And that's pretty much almost every one of my days. So that's what I believe that really sets me apart from everybody else in this field. One of my philosophies is giving back. I graduated from this community, and I've been given so much, and so I have my whole career dedicated my time to public service. I've been on the school board now for 9 years, the Monroe Public Library Board of Trustees for 4. I was a board of directors for the Rainbow Daycare for 15 years, Monroe Fund for 6 years, the Greene County Humane Society for 4 years early in my career, and then I helped for 3 years with the new shelter committee to bring the new shelter here. And I still answer questions for them today. The Greene County Elder Abuse Committee since its inception in 2005, where we help make awareness for elder abuse in our community and try to eliminate that. Everything that I do, I want to try to make a positive impact, make things better, improve things. And that's what I'm going to bring as Greene County judge. I'm going to treat every participant with respect, give them an equal opportunity, fairness. I'm going to make a fair decision and have them have efficient justice. And so I really appreciate, again, the opportunity to be at this forum and hopefully be able to serve Greene County as the next circuit court judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next on the list is Peter Kelly. Peter?
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone tonight. Serving as a judge is in part an academic exercise. So I think my successful record in academics is very relevant to my campaign, and I want to start there. I graduated from the University of Notre Dame with a Bachelor of Business Administration degree in Business Management in 1979 with a minor in Environmental Sciences. Then I went out and got a job in my home state of Michigan, where I began a master's degree at the University of Michigan Ann Arbor. It's a Master of Science in Natural Resource Policy at what is now called the School of Environment and Sustainability. I received that degree in 1981. I then immediately went to Marquette University Law School, where I earned my Juris Doctorate in 1984. I was a 2-year member of the Marquette Law Review as a member and staff editor. Then I joined the Brennan Style Law Firm in Janesville. And still, while practicing law and raising a family, I went back for a 4th university degree, this one in pastoral theology, just for the heaven of it, because I love the idea. I went to Ave Maria University with a Master's of Theological Studies, first in my class, awarded that in 2003. And then in 2008, I went back to the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater to obtain a master's degree in counselor education. Those last 2 degrees, I graduated first in my class. Since then, in 2009, I received a certificate in mediation from UW's Continuing Education Department. And for the last 10 years, I have been a court commissioner, so I've been attending judicial education seminars as a court commissioner with other judges. In my law practice, I've been practicing law for 36 years in a general practice, including 34 years out of a Monroe office. I was hired as a litigator. Assurance defense work, plaintiff's personal injury is what we did primarily in Janesville. Then moving to Monroe, I began doing also family law, guardian ad litem work, real estate work, estate planning, corporate setups, nonprofit 501c3 setups, landlord tenant, small claims. I also did criminal and traffic work for 26 years until I was appointed court commissioner by Judge Beer and Judge Vale in 2010, 10 years ago. For 10 years, I served as a court commissioner. I was reappointed every year by Judge Beer and Judge Vale, and did the jobs that a court commissioner does to help relieve time pressure on the judges, sometimes taking the bench when a judge is not available for hearings and bail bond hearings, temporary physical custody requests, injunction hearings, in addition to approving search warrants, probable cause statements from law enforcement. I served as a mediator for Greene County Family Court for a few years. And for 8 years, I was volunteering with the Wisconsin Supreme Court's Office of Lawyer Regulation, the District 12 Committee, investigating complaints of unethical conduct by lawyers. I also served for 10 years as a part-time corporate counsel for the Lori Knapp companies out of Prairie du Chien. These companies enable disabled people to live in homes in neighborhoods and communities rather than institutions. There was a lot of contract work there and a lot of employment law to focus on with the Lori Knapp companies. I was a longtime participant, still involved in the Greene County Family Court Legal Clinic. And I have the most judicial endorsements in this campaign by bipartisan judges, judges who have actually seen me perform in the courtroom. That would include Judge Jim Beer, Lafayette County Judge Dwayne Jorgensen, retired Lafayette County Judge Bill Johnston, Iowa County Judge Margaret Kohler, retired Rock County Judge Jim Welker, and Court of Appeals Judge Mike Fitzpatrick. After earning the Master in Counseling degree from UW-Whitewater, with special emphasis on mental health and substance abuse counseling, where I got the degree and then went back to take the last remaining courses that were still offered at that university, I was then asked by then DA Gary Luman and the Office of Probation and Parole to facilitate two groups. One for men charged with domestic violence and anger management offenses, and the other for men convicted of domestic violence and anger management offenses. I ran both groups, and the one for the DA went on for 10 years, every Tuesday night, once a week in the basement conference room of the Greene County Courthouse. After that decade of groups, I then began assisting my wife on weekends in her job as a mental health professional at the 400-bed jail for the Washington County Jail in West Bend. I was welcomed in by the jail administrator just to try to help out, and Christine and I would divide things up, and I'd be dealing with inmates, suicide watch, and with other problems, drug abuse problems, a lot of mental health issues there. I think that counseling experience will help me become the best judge to handle the drug court, which I even want to expand to and have an alcohol court as well. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Our final candidate on the first question is Fawn Phillipson. Fawn?
Thank you, Judge Steininger. My name is Fawn Marie Phillipson. I'm 46 years old, and I've been practicing law for 20 years. I'm licensed to practice in Wisconsin and New York, and I've had cases across the country, from New York to Detroit to Los Angeles. This exposure to different courtrooms and different judicial styles is a strength that I could bring to the bench. As I've traveled around Greene County for the past couple of months, I'm most often asked two questions. And one is, why do you want to be a judge? The short answer is because I was born and raised here, I grew up here, and I will grow old here. I would like to serve my community in the best way that I possibly can. But a better question, I think, is, why are you qualified to serve as our next judge? I've practiced law for 20 years. I began my practice in New York City, which is arguably one of the toughest and most competitive areas of the country. I would get on the subway at 7:30 in the morning, often work 12 or more hours a day, often coming home at midnight, sometimes later. My cases were before the NASD and the New York Stock Exchange, as well as the New York State Supreme Court, which is their trial level court, like Greene County Circuit Court in Manhattan and Brooklyn. In 2004, my partner John and I started our own firm, Phillipson and Uretsky, and at the beginning, we would take almost any case that we could, whether criminal or civil. In 2007, we opened an office in New Glarus. So we now have offices in New York, New Jersey, and New Glarus. And in addition to traveling to represent my clients in New York, I also focused on a local practice: wills, deeds, landlord-tenant, and employment disputes. I have represented kids with speeding tickets, friends, neighbors, landlords, employers, employees, local businesses, and public companies. This broad range of experience is key because in Greene County Circuit Court, the judges hear all types of cases and therefore must be familiar with all types of law. I have that depth and breadth of experience. But knowledge of the law is only part of the story. I also know people. As a business owner for the last 16 years, It's my responsibility to bring in clients, to advise those clients, and to represent those clients to the best of my ability. You listen to someone's story and keep in mind that it's probably only part of the story. You advise them how the law applies to their case, if they have a case, and what the potential outcomes of that case might be. I've also invested a great amount of time in the community, and that's because the community has given a lot to me. I previously was on the board of directors of the Swiss Center of North America, the Community Foundation of New Glarus, and the New Glarus Public Library Board of Trustees. I also previously taught business law at Blackhawk Technical College. Currently, I'm on the board of directors of the Bank of New Glarus and its holding company. I have volunteered as a tutor for a number of years with the Greene County Literacy Council. And for over a decade, I've been a coach of the New Glarus High School mock trial team, which is a state bar sponsored program that teaches students about the fundamentals of practicing law. You'll recall at the beginning, I said I'm often asked two questions. And the second one is, what party are you with? My response is always, it doesn't matter. This is a nonpartisan election and a nonpartisan position. As you can probably imagine in this politically charged atmosphere, that response is often met with some skepticism. But as I recently explained to one gentleman, sir, the speed limit is 55, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. A judge must be fair and impartial, and they must also be perceived as being fair and impartial. You deserve to know that your case is being heard and that it will be judged solely on the facts and the law, not on your political or any other affiliation. I will treat you as I would like to be treated, intelligently, fairly, and impartially. Thank you, Judge Steininger, for hosting us, and Greene County Bar for sponsoring us, and thank you all for listening tonight.
Okay, that completes the round of responses to the introductory question. We'll move on now to question number 2. And on the remaining questions tonight, we have pretty much agreed, I think, on 2 minutes each for responses. So the second question is this. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the courts in Wisconsin have increased their reliance on technology in order to conduct court proceedings without having to have the attorneys and litigants gather together in courtrooms. First, how well do you think this has worked? And second, do you believe that anything has been learned, or from the experience, there are things that maybe should carry forward into the future to make our courts more efficient? 2 minutes, and now on this one, Dan Bardoff is our first respondent.
Thank you, Judge. It's almost been a year that we have not had in-person hearings, and we have learned a lot. There have been problems with the Zoom technology, of people learning how to, having connection problems and people talking over each other, and a lot of people calling in on phones. But we have grown to use it, and this pandemic is going to go away sometime. But we will have a new normal. We'll get back to a new normal. The way we get groceries, and the way, by doing online, and the way we bank and our schooling, our practice is going to be different. And I think that the technology that we have here will continue in some format. It will not be, you will not have Zoom technology for jury trials and those type of hearings. But for those hearings that you can have like pretrial conferences, status conferences, Zoom technology will be a viable option for people to have. It will save litigants probably thousands of dollars over the course of their case if their attorneys can appear without having to wait in line in a court hearing for delays and the like. There are times, even before the pandemic started, that we would have doctors and teachers testify by telephone. Well, now we have the technology. Before we had the technology for certain appearances by video, but now everybody has that. So we can still have those people still testify by Zoom means. Again, save everybody like the significant cost of doctors and the disruption into their normal business days. So it's a change, and I think that we'll grow with that process. Thank you.
We thank you, Dan. Next up is Peter Kelly.
Thank you, Judge. While I recognize the need for the current Zoom processes in light of the concerns about the virus, I really cannot wait to get back into the courtroom with people. I do agree that a Zoom meeting is fine for what we call scheduling conferences, setting dates for a hearing, something rather mundane and easily handled. But when it comes to litigation, I want to be in a courtroom with human beings where I can look at exhibits, I can look at witnesses, I can make the evaluations that all trial lawyers make about how things are going on in the process of litigation when people are being questioned. I really miss the time in court hearings where you can lean across from one counsel table to the other and talk to the other lawyers about maybe we can resolve this in another way based on some information we just heard, or being able to stroll over to the clerk of court there and ask for an alternative date or to get an exhibit marked. When you're in the trial, it's a people business in the trial court. And I do miss that. I think as a culture, we seem to be growing farther apart under this pandemic, understandably so. I just don't want us to grow apart in the society of the courtroom. I think where there are judges and clerks and attorneys and the bailiff, I miss that connection with the other litigants and the other partners that are bringing about justice in Greene County. As to one thing that we can do a little bit better on, it's a little different than Zoom, but I really want to see our drug court expanded to be an alcohol court as well. I was at a meeting about that today with the Healthy Community Coalition, and we talked about that. That would be a really great improvement for our drug court, to expand it to also cover people that have alcohol issues as well. Again, a person-centered thing. We need to do that to help bring about the advancement in the human condition that we can do in a courtroom. It can make things better. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Next up is Fawn Phillipson.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? There's an example. I think our system has adapted extraordinarily well to the effects of the pandemic. And just one example is that this morning I had a status conference in federal court, and all in, it took about 20 minutes. There's no way that that could have been accomplished without using technology. Video conferences, Zoom, telephonic hearings, they've all allowed us to keep the system running and keep everyone safe over the last 10 months. With that said, relying on technology definitely has its pros and cons. What are the pros? We've stayed safe, it's kept cases moving, it's cost effective, and it's efficient for the most part. Also, as an incoming judge, especially during a transition period, one could get up to speed quickly on their caseload utilizing Zoom for status conferences where appropriate, especially in complex matters or cases that may have been lingering in the system a bit longer. But there's also obvious cons. Not everyone has access to technology, and not everyone has access to reliable internet. It's also more difficult to gauge credibility and a person's demeanor when you're not in the same room as they are. I'm in favor of keeping Zoom, especially during the transition period, because it's safe, cost-effective, and efficient. Especially for pretrial hearings. I'm also committed to making sure that an in-person option is available for any litigants or criminal defendants where appropriate. And I would look forward to working with Judge Vale, who's our district chief judge, on moving forward in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaughn. Next candidate, final candidate on this question is Jane Bucher.
Well, Your Honor, thank you for that. There's not much I can say good about the pandemic. It has created a huge backlog in Greene County. We haven't had a jury trial, I believe, since September of 2020. And we are going to have to work collaboratively with judges, district attorneys, defense attorneys, the clerk of court staff, and the judicial staff to work our way out of that backlog when it is safe and secure to do that. Now, that being said, I think that having this technology sort of forced upon us has shown us that it can work for some types of proceedings. I think that going forward, out of custody initial appearances for criminal defendants can continue to be held by Zoom for fairly routine cases. The advantage of that is that it allows defendants and victims to participate in these hearings without having to take time off of work and without having to secure childcare. Obviously, we also have to respect the rights of defendants to appear in person in certain cases, and that's important as well. We have great judicial staff at the Greene County Justice Center, and we have not had a new judge in Branch 1 in many, many years. I look forward to working with the staff to address any issues of access to justice, and I think that other issues of access to justice that we can work on are things such as making sure that all of the forms are available in multiple languages. I think we have to also make sure that individuals who have low or moderate literacy have access to materials that can help them participate in court proceedings effectively and meaningfully. And I think that we have to work to make sure that our court calendars are organized in a fashion that allows each case the amount of time that it's due. So overall, I think that technology can be one tool in the toolkit of making sure that we have access to justice for every member of Greene County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That completes the responses to the question about courtroom technology. Moving on, the third topic here, some of you have touched on it in your opening remarks, but I'll go ahead with this anyway. Circuit courts in Wisconsin are courts of general jurisdiction. That means everything from probating estates to personal injury cases to felony criminal trials all happen in circuit court. In Greene County, a major share of the caseload falls into the areas of criminal, juvenile, and family law cases. What specific experience do you have in those areas, and how would you approach cases that come before you in areas where you have little or no experience? And on this question, Peter Kelly is first.
Thank you, Judge. For the first 26 years of my practice, I was involved in criminal and traffic cases, but I had to give that up 10 years ago when I was selected again to be a court commissioner. That allowed me to get involved in the criminal and a lot of the family area from a different perspective. I began approving search warrants, probable cause statements, and taking the bench, presiding over bail bond hearings, temporary physical custody requests, and injunctions. Aided by my counseling background, I also became very much involved in working with the groups that I had mentioned too, with individuals that are charged with criminal offenses and anger management, domestic violence. And the 10 years of groups that I did allowed me to really understand why these men are in that system and how we can change it so that they're not continuing on in a revolving door fashion. I've been involved in family law from the beginning, and in recent decades, I've been doing a lot of guardian ad litem work, which is a very great assistance, I think, to the court, because while both parties, the attorneys for the parties, have to be advocates for their party, the guardian ad litem is the advocate for the best interest of a child in the family law case, and allows me to make recommendations and push pretty hard on the recommendations, which helps settle the cases, and that actually helps out the advocate parties too. I am the only candidate that was actually trained at the UW-Madison in mediation, and I served for a time as a Greene County Family Court mediator. That's an extremely important thing to do because it allows you to settle cases outside of court where there's less expense and less trouble between the parties. But I've also had an experience as a litigator. That's how I started off with the Brennan firm. And I think, although there's not as much insurance defense and plaintiff's personal injury coming in today, it's still nice to have somebody on the bench that knows what a parent jury release is and what comparative negligence is all about, and what are the requirements of notice under Section 893 sub 80. There is a lot of experience you get in 36 years practicing law. And in Greene County, like we've all been saying, you do all of it. So all of us have been had down the road. We all know how these things work. And I think it's these cases are going to be something we'll see as judges. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Next on this question is Fawn Phillipson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have spent my career in litigation, actively handling lawsuits in and out of the courtroom for the last 20 years. While criminal defense and family practice has never been my primary area of practice, I did also take the UW-Madison Continuing Studies mediation program that Peter spoke of in domestic violence and mediation. And I did previously volunteer with the Greene County Family Law Clinic, giving me a familiarity with the procedures and forms and also myriad issues that can arise in family cases. Also, every client, like all of us, comes with a constellation of issues. And when you build a rapport with a client, you become their go-to person. Here's an example. I represented a longtime client and bar owner in negotiating their commercial lease. When that bar's bouncer was stabbed by a patron, they called me. When a bar fight broke out in the bar and the bar was sued for negligence, I represented the bar in that case. And when one of the bartenders was arrested on felony and misdemeanor charges, I represented him in criminal court. My practice has led me into all of these areas of the law because my clients are diverse and because their needs are also diverse, whether it's public companies, businesses, or individuals. These clients have brought me into a number of courtrooms over the years, whether for mediation, trial, settlement conferences, status conferences, discovery disputes, evidentiary hearings, injunction hearings, or pretrial motions. This has given me a foundational knowledge to effectively preside over cases. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next on the question about areas of experience is Jane Bucher.
Over the course of my career, I have represented individuals in over 2,300 cases in local circuit courts. That's more local cases than the other candidates combined. I'm in the courtroom every day, and I'm working on these types of cases every day of the week. I handle the vast majority of the types of cases that this judge will hear. I've handled juvenile cases from truancies to serious felonies. I've handled countless criminal cases, and I was selected to attend a special juvenile law academy at Georgetown University, and I completed that in 2019. In terms of family law, I have helped clients address concerns in regards to child support, paternity, and divorce, and I've also handled restraining orders. All of this experience led me to help spearhead the creation of the Greene County Adult Drug Court. In 2015, our community was reeling from the impact of the opioid epidemic, and this started us on a 2-year journey that culminated in the creation of Greene County's first treatment court. There is nothing quite like attending a treatment court graduation. Recently, at one of our drug court graduations, the parents of the graduate came and poignantly spoke about how they had been prepared to lose their adult child to the opioid epidemic. They thought they had tried everything, and they were prepared to get the call that their adult child had died. There was nothing quite like seeing the impact that drug court had on this graduate and the family. And I am forever grateful for the hard work that our drug court team does to save lives and to reduce crime. Thank you.
And the final speaker or candidate to address this question is Dan Bardoff.
Thank you, Your Um, family law, child support, guardian litem, probate, guardianship, contract law, OWIs. This is everything that a judge would be expected to handle in a Greene County Circuit Court, but this is also everything that I have done just today alone. My practice is every day will be the same. I would be in a different role, of course, but every day handling all these issues is something that is normal for me. I also practice bankruptcy and immigration law, which is federal law, but sometimes bankruptcy also has interplay with the circuit court level cases. The one area that I don't have as large of a practice in is criminal law. For the most part, by representing the city of Monroe, and Monroe being the biggest community in Greene County, we represent the city of Monroe Police Department, and there would be a lot of conflicts. And so we just have not participated in a lot of criminal cases. Periodically, I would have a case that would be a family court, a client that has an offense that had a conflict with the city. But I do have pseudo experience in the criminal law by participating in the prosecution of criminal cases or prosecution of forfeitures and OWIs, traffic offenses, which are pseudo criminal law. I also am involved in those court hearings when they also accompany a criminal law matter, so I'm aware of the procedures and processes that are happening. So I don't believe that this is a weakness. I believe it's the procedures that I can learn, and I can dole out justice in a fair and equal way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That completes the questioning on that, on the issue of areas of expertise or areas of experience that might be relevant to the Greene County Circuit Court. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about people who come to court without an attorney. The right to be represented by an attorney is constitutionally guaranteed in criminal cases, but that's not true in civil cases. Courts are seeing an increasing number of litigants appearing in court without attorneys. This is especially so in family law. What problems or issues does that present for a judge, and how would you handle them? And first up on this one is Fawn Phillipson.
Thank you, Your Honor. In dealing with pro se litigants, there are at least a handful of things that we have to be mindful of at all times. One is having a patient and tactful judicial demeanor. As Judge Deininger said, we should all have equal access to the court and access to the laws that protect us, whether represented by counsel or not. But in reality, the courtroom can be a very difficult place to navigate, which leads to another point: preventing the confusion and chaos that can arise from a person representing themselves, especially in an emotionally charged situation. It requires a balancing act, a big part of which is to inform the person who wants to represent themselves in court of the risks and responsibilities of proceeding without an attorney. There's also the issue of limited scope representation, which I think is a significant tool for addressing the needs of pro se litigants, especially if cost is an issue. And finally, establishing clear guidelines from the beginning and continuously along the way for how the case will proceed. Because really, that is one of the ultimate goals: moving the case forward while simultaneously ensuring that all parties, whether represented by counsel or not, have a full and fair opportunity to be heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fawn. Next up on this question is Jane Bucher.
Thank you. We know some things about pro se litigants. We know that their numbers are on the rise. We know that they are more likely to lose than their represented counterparts, and we know that they are largely low income. The challenge of addressing access to justice for pro se litigants is a daunting one. Obviously, judges cannot give legal advice and they cannot advise on a course of action. Some things that judges can do, though, is to inform pro se litigants of their right to an attorney, direct them to available resources through the state bar as well as through legal action and local legal clinics, and ensure that their rulings and their orders are clear and accessible to pro se litigants. My goal will be that all litigants will leave the courtroom fully understanding the court's order. I think that in certain circumstances, issuing a written decision can also help. Now, I am the elected representative for this district on the State Bar Board of Governors, and with that work, I have had the opportunity of creating policies that can help better serve pro se litigants. One example is our policy on ghostwriting, which gets to the issue of limited scope representation that Attorney Phillipson mentioned. We recently adjusted our policy on ghostwriting to make it more lenient so that, for example, volunteer attorneys can provide greater assistance to people in such things as eviction clinics. I also think that giving people access to legal action, as I mentioned, is important. I personally have volunteered for legal action clinics in the past. And I also think that encouraging our fellow members of the bar to engage in meaningful pro bono service is important. In 2015, I organized an event commemorating our inductees into the Pro Bono Honor Society, and I think that events like that can provide an incentive for local attorneys to take on pro bono cases. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Next up is Dan Bardoff.
Thank you. There are so many times when courts and judges can appoint attorneys for people, but many times people choose to represent themselves. And I agree with Attorney Phillipson that you have to set the expectations at the beginning of a hearing, especially when there's two pro se people. Two pro se people may not even understand the procedures that are used in court, even certainly as asking questions. Sometimes it becomes a free-for-all where they talk to each other and they're testifying when they're supposed to be asking questions. So I think it's really laying out the expectations for them and having them trying to understand the proceedings so that they understand them, giving clear directions, being calm, not reacting, and instructing them along the way. One thing that I've seen as a problem that not just, this is with many judges, is sometimes when there's one attorney that in the courtroom and there's a one pro se client, or there's an attorney in the room and a mom and dad don't have counsel, is the court sometimes gets so wrapped up in what the attorney says, they don't give the other opportunities for the other parties that are especially not represented. You'd have to really make sure that they have their equal opportunity for statements, for questions, for their input, so that they also will have that opportunity. Your question was originally, you made a comment about family law. And what I would do with pro se clients in family law, say a new divorce, I would bring them into the courtroom at the beginning of their case, within the first 2 or 3 weeks. And I would lay out the process that they need to comply with as far as they go to make that process go as smoothly as possible for them. So they know their expectations of getting their financial disclosure statement in, getting their agreements in, what happens if they don't disagree, and what happens at the end. Again, it's really explaining the process to them. Thank you.
Okay, and batting cleanup on this question is Peter Kelly.
Thank you, Judge. Pro se parties are not going away, and they are not all low income. There's even people that have substantial income, but they figure with the computer that they can do anything that a lawyer can do. I've been involved with them both as a guardian ad litem, appointed in certain cases where their children are at issue. And I've also been involved since the beginning of the Greene County Legal Clinic, where we see that almost exclusively. In a family case where there is children involved, I have seen judges effectively appoint in Greene County a guardian ad litem, because settling this dispute is certainly going to be in the best interest of the children, and invariably there's going to be an issue about placement, how to deal with the parenting, the co-parenting issues. And I've been able to work in cases, and I would appoint guardians ad litem cases, children are involved and they're double pro se, both parents are unrepresented. The more difficult time comes in when it's not a family law case, but like it's a piece of litigation. And I think it's very important for a judge to make it very clear to the parties that just because they're not represented by lawyers, it doesn't mean that the law doesn't apply to them. They don't get a pass on the rules of evidence. They don't get a pass on civil procedure. They are getting themselves into an area that it might be uncomfortable for them. But I think it's also important for a judge to say, maybe there's another way through litigation that'll be difficult for you. Why don't we look at getting a mediator to try to work out some of these issues, and you can share the cost of the mediator so it's not quite as expensive. And I think a lot of times mediation, shared expense by both parties, can resolve things, and there'll be a fair response, a fair resolution, and the parties can get behind that because they're both giving and taking a little bit. And I think that's a pretty good way of avoiding the entire litigation fiasco with unrepresented parties if they can mediate things themselves and get it resolved. And I've seen that work out very well. Lawyers shouldn't represent themselves and people shouldn't represent themselves. So thank you, Judge.
Okay, and thank you. That completes the discussion on pro se litigants. I see we've got about 10 minutes left because we wanted to keep this to about an hour in length. So I want to give each of the attorneys that hope to be judges a chance to make their closing arguments. And that would be, what do you believe that you bring to the bench or would bring to the bench that sets you apart from the other three candidates and makes you the best person to become the next Greene County Circuit Court judge? And on this question, we're back to Jane as the first speaker.
As I mentioned before, this will be the first time in 25 years that Branch 1 will have a new judge. Voters have an important choice. The campaign has been respectful and positive. All of us have chosen slightly different paths in the law, and with all due respect to the other candidates, my background and experience sets me apart. I've handled more cases in local circuit courts right here than all of my opponents combined. There is no substitute for being in court every day and handling the kind of cases that this judge will hear. I know what will work to make improvements in how our courts operate, and I know how to get it done. I spearheaded the creation of the Greene County Drug Court Program, which is saving lives and reducing crime. I helped create the Greene County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, which was the first coordinating council in Greene County. Judges need to treat people fairly, and they need to make tough decisions. Because of my experience, I'm the best prepared to make the complex decisions that will serve our community and keep Greene County safe and strong. I have represented children in child welfare cases, I have represented juveniles in delinquency cases, and I have represented adults in criminal cases. I understand how those systems intersect. And because of that deep understanding of the law, I am prepared to make the tough decisions that are necessary to keep our communities safe and strong, and I am prepared to decide cases fairly based on the information provided in court with integrity and without bias. This is the kind of judge that I will be. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, next for closing remarks and a comparison as to why you believe you're the best of the candidates to serve as our next judge, Dan Bardoff is up.
Thank you. First of all, I would never say that I'm the best. I would never say that I'm better than anybody else. But I do believe that I am the right fit for not only for this position, but for Greene County for two reasons. First is my demeanor and how I will proceed with the case. Those that know me, I'm pretty quiet, pretty reserved. I actually do more listening than I do talking. It's not about me. I actually don't get a lot of enjoyment in this environment talking about myself. This is not something that I do. And I will treat everybody fairly. I will make sure I have an informed decision. Everybody has an equal opportunity to make statements. I will take the time necessary to get it right and to make the best decision that's available for me. That's number one. And then number two is, again, I've said it over and over again, that the role of the Greene County Circuit Court judge is multifaceted with all these areas of the law. family law, criminal law, juvenile law, adoptions, terminations, evictions. These are all areas that I have experience in, and I believe I have more experience in all these areas than my rest of the candidates here. So I think those are the two reasons why I am the best fit for Greene County Circuit Court Judge. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Next, for a closing is Peter Kelly.
Thank you, Judge. I am set apart from the other candidates because with 36 years in the general practice of law, I am by far the oldest, but the most legally experienced candidate. With a master's degree in mental health and substance abuse counseling, I am by far the most professionally educated candidate to preside over a branch 1 drug court. I finished with a perfect 4.0 GPA. That's while I'm practicing law and raising a family. With 10 years conducting psychoeducational groups for men charged with domestic violence and anger management offenses, and my jail cell counseling, I am by far the candidate with the experienced understanding of what can be done to change behaviors with deferred conviction alternatives to sentencing and what a jail or prison sentence can do to and for a person. 10 years serving as a court commissioner, I am by far the most prepared to take the bench, as I have done already many times at the request of our judges for the last decade. With 5 university degrees from respected universities, I am by far the most academically qualified to take on the academic nature of the role of a judge. With 8 years volunteering on the District 12 committee for the Wisconsin Supreme Court's Office of Lawyer Regulation, I am by far the candidate most knowledgeable about the ethical rules that govern our conduct. As the longest serving volunteer for the Greene County Family Law Clinic in this race, I am the one who understands most the problems of poverty and difficulty in family law matters. And of course, with the most judicial endorsements from judges who have actually seen me work in their courtrooms, I believe I have the ability to start right from ground zero. And I think that's why 6 years ago, Judge Beer asked me to run for this seat. Thank you, Judge. Thank you to the Greene County Bar for allowing me to speak and allowing all of us to talk as well. This has been a great opportunity for everyone to get to see who will be the next judge for Greene County Branch 1. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Peter. And finally, to finish up on the closing is Fawn Phillipson.
Thank you, Judge Steininger. Look, I am who I am. I put myself through college. I moved to a city with over 12 million people. I put myself through law school and I started a business there. And when that business became successful enough that I was able to move here, move home, I did. My heart is in the right place, and that's right here in Greene County. But my head is in the right place too. You've heard me say that I've practiced law for the last 20 years. You've heard me say that I've practiced in courtrooms across the country. You've heard me tell you that I have experience in criminal, civil, small claims, employment, and I spent 6 months volunteering with the Greene County Family Law Clinic. I have the years of experience and the depth and breadth of experience to serve. I get up every single day and I do my best. Always have, always will. That's who I am, and that's what I will bring to the bench. Judge Steininger, thank you for moderating tonight, and thank you all for listening.
Okay, thank you. This concludes the candidate forum. I want to thank the 4 candidates for agreeing to participate tonight. And I want to thank all of you for taking the time to meet them, either live or on the recording that hopefully will be available shortly after this evening. The primary election is set for Tuesday, February 16th. That's 4 weeks from today. You will be able to vote in person that day, and you can also vote early or by absentee ballot. For information on early and absentee voting, you should contact the office of your city, village, or town clerk. And with that, again, with our thanks, I will say good evening.